Hi, everyone. My name is Darren, and I'm going to be your teacher today. This is Crochet 101. So if you've never crocheted before, or if you've never even held yarn in your hands before, then you're in the right place. But if you know how to crochet and maybe you just want to review, it's also a great class for people that already know how to crochet. So we also have Molly with us. She's going to help moderate the chat. Want to say hi, Molly?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Molly from Lion Brand. I'll be your moderator today. So if you have any questions as we go along, don't hesitate to pop them into the chat, and I'll pass them on to Darren to answer for us.
Okay, yeah, and I do encourage some questions because sometimes things don't always show up on camera as clearly as I'm thinking they are. So if you can't see anything, if you want me to do it again, let me know. Okay. Okay, all that being said, let's switch the view to the view of my hands, and we will start with our class. Did it switch? I'm still seeing my face.
Yes, it switched.
Okay. Okay, so I do want to talk just a little bit about yarn since this is I Love Yarn Day. I want to show you my new very most favorite yarn. It's called Local Grown, and this is made in the United States. The sheep are raised and tended in the United States. I think it's in Montana, and then the yarn is actually processed and produced in I think North Carolina. So this yarn is 100% wool. It's a worsted weight, and it's my new favorite yarn. So I just wanted to show you that one as for I Love Yarn. I actually made this sweater out of it. So maybe at the end of class I'll be able to hold it up. But I made a sweater out of that yarn. So it comes in all these great even more than this. I didn't even use all the colors. So another really great yarn. Oh, that Local Grown is available on michaels.com. So Wool Ease is another really great yarn, and this is what I'm going to be demonstrating in class with. I'm going to be using Wool Ease. It's a thick yarn, so it shows up nice on camera. This is also Wool Ease, but it's a much thinner version. So this is Wool Ease worsted. So that's another great yarn. And if you don't like any wool, if you'd rather have an acrylic option, this one is called Heartland. And this one also comes in a very wide range of really nice colors. It has a slight heathered texture to the color. I think it looks a little more sophisticated, maybe a little nicer than some of the other. I don't know. I like it. I just like it. But so this is a great choice as well. All of these yarns are available either at lionbrand.com or michaels.com, and most of them I think are actually in the store. So you can pop in and check them and see how they feel and look at the colors in person. Okay. So for class today, I'm not making the mittens or the hand warmers in class. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know to make them. So we're going to be learning the stitches and all the techniques, and then after class, you'll be able to make these hand warmers. I am going to be demonstrating with this thicker yarn because it's much easier to see on camera. So that sometimes people are confused why I'm not making the hand warmers in class. So I'm going to be using Wool Ease Thick and Quick. And whenever you decide you're going to use a certain yarn, you need to double check and make sure what size hook it's recommending, because it'll give you a nice guide right here. And this one is recommending a 9mm hook, or it says N13 9mm. That's two different ways of saying the exact same thing. So that just means that two different ways of describing how big the hook is. Here is where it shows you the size of the yarn. Yarn is rated from 0 up to 7. 0 is more like kind of like thread, and then 7 is bigger than this, but it's just a catch-all for all yarn bigger than this. So some yarn might be just a little bigger, and some yarn might be like as thick as your arm. So that's a 7 is a super jumbo. But this one is a 6, and it's nice to know, what size yarn you're looking for. Like all yarn is not just all equal like that. So I am going to, this is the hook that I'm going to be using. This one. This one is the 9mm. But I wanted to just mention that if you don't have a 9mm, but you do have a 10 millimeter, or maybe you can't find those, but you can find your 8 millimeter. You can go up or down a hook size, and it's not really going to make a huge difference if you're making something like a scarf or a blanket. If you're making a sweater or a hat or something, you want to be an exact size, then it starts to become more important. But for beginning, you don't have to stress out or be too anxious about that. So any questions about the yarn that I showed or the hooks? Any questions at all?
One person is asking, how do you get the yarn started? But I believe that you can cover that.
Well, I don't actually usually cover that. That's a dangerous game. So you want to put you're going to use this. If you want to use the center pull, you just kind of have to reach in there and look for it. Somebody told me once, if you pound it like this, it makes the center. I don't know if that works, but usually what happens is you get it's called yarn barf.
Right.
And if you can't get on that side, usually it comes out in a big clump. So that's usually just a kind of a game. Or you can just use it from the outside if you'd rather use it from the outside. So yeah, that probably doesn't help at all, I'm sure. So any other questions?
Yeah, I feel like the answer is you kind of just have to be a wizard.
Yeah, it's just kind of a struggle. All right, so a little bit about the hook, just for some vocabulary so that you know what I'm talking about. This is the head of the hook. This is the mouth of the hook, this like indentation where the hook actually is. This is the throat of the hook, which is much more narrow. And then it gets much larger when you get up to the shaft. And here's the shaft, and this is how thick the hook is. So this is what's being measured. And then this is just your thumb rest. And some of them have a handle and a different, like an ergonomic, different kind of thumb rest. But that's just the different like parts of a hook. And just notice it does get slimmer here and thicker as it goes up. Okay. So now I'm ready to start with my slip knot. So there are many, many ways to tie a slip knot. I'm going to show you an easy way, but if you already know how to tie a slip knot, then you can use any method that you want, but this is just the method I'm teaching today. There's not like a special crocheter's slip knot or anything. So you make a loop, and this is called short over long because we're putting the tail of our yarn, the short piece, over the ball of yarn, the working yarn. So this one is the short side. You're going to put your hand inside that circle. You're going to lift it up, and you're just going to sneak right under there. You're going to pull a loop like that. Now, what you have to do is you have to hold your tail and hold your working yarn at the same time, and then just pull it. Now, one thing in crochet you want the tail to be what controls the size of your loop. It's not hugely important for this project, but later on, it becomes much more important. So it's nice to start off doing it this way. So you make a circle, have an overlap like that. Put your hand in the center, sneak under, grab onto your tail, and you want to hold on to it. Pull a loop, just pull a loop back through, and then hold your tail and your working yarn together and just pull that loop until you get a knot. And you know you did it right if when you pull it, it just releases. Or you can just do this. I mean, that's the same thing. It's just like laying down. So that's what it looks like in real life. Sorry. So it's easy. So any questions about the slip knot? Sometimes people get hung up there. Nope.
Nothing specifically about the slip knot, no.
Okay.
Oh, actually, sorry, could you demonstrate once more?
One more time. So lay out your yarn, put the tail or the short piece over the working yarn, which is much longer. So it's short over long. You do want to make sure you have enough here to kind of grab onto. Put your hand in the center. You want to sneak under. Oh, wait a minute, I've got mine wrong. That laid out right. Put your hand in the center and sneak out and grab the tail. Put the tail and the working yarn together and pull it through. So let me show you one more time. Lay it out short over long. Put your hand in the center, sneak under, grab the tail. Here it's just pulling a loop of the tail through, just pull it under. You want to hold on to that loop, that's going to be your slip knot. And then when you pull both, that's what cinches it up. Okay. So once you've got your slip knot tied, we have to attach it to our hook or put it on our hook. So you just set it on your hook and you just cinch it up. Now you don't want to pull it tight. So in crochet, we're not pulling anything tight. We're doing everything. Think of it as being pulled as like snug, not tight. So we're not pulling things tight. And we're going to make a chain. So crochet starts with a chain. And if you chain 5, then you're going to make a very narrow piece. If you chain 200, then you could make something as big as a blanket. So making the chain will usually determine how big your piece is going to be. So hold your hook in your dominant hand. And with your other hand, I like to kind of secure it right here and hold it. And that kind of, when you pull it down, it kind of pulls that loop open. So when I start, I actually hold it like this. Wrap the yarn. So I've got my hook facing up, wrap the yarn, and I'm going to grip it with this hand and pull it through. That's the first chain. So you take your hook and you grab your yarn, turn it down, and pull it through. And sometimes you have to kind of tease it through. And so I'm holding it, I'm pulling it down, and when you pull it down, it opens up that opening, the little window to help you pull it through. So you're going under, grabbing the yarn, pulling it through. Back up. And then you just keep going for how many ever you want to make. The way you count them, you never count the loop that's on your hook, so that one doesn't count. You start here and you look for these shapes. It's kind of a V shape. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you don't count the slip knot. So I have 6 chains. I'll start at the beginning, and if you have questions, let us know.
Yeah, if you could start again.
So put it on. And you want it to be loose. You do want it to be loose. Don't pull it tight. And you sometimes you can start like this. So you want to pull, I'm not pulling it hard, but just pull enough to open up that window. Scoop up the yarn, and you turn the hook down. If you don't turn the hook down, then it's going to get caught on that top of the loop. So you turn the hook down, and it will glide through. And then you turn the hook up. Bring your hook to grab another piece of yarn, turn down, and pull it through. And if you notice, I'll change the grip. I won't keep it down here. I'll move my fingers up, so I'm kind of always holding it closer to the hook.
We do have a couple of requests for you to go all the way back to the start again.
Okay, perfect. So you make a slip knot, do short over long, put your hand in the center, go under your working yarn, grab your tail, pull a little loop through. You just got this little loop. Hook that loop on your finger, hold your working yarn and your tail together, and cinch it up. And then you want to make it small enough to fit on your hook. So I'm going to do mine. I don't want such a long tail. So, and then once you get a hang of it, it's really very simple. It's easier than you think. If you're having trouble with it, you're thinking too hard. So just don't think too hard about it. And if you get it wrong, you know what? It's fine, because nobody's going to come yell at you. So, and once you get it on your hook, you want to make sure it has room. You want that little window, and you want to make sure it flows on your hook nicely. You don't want to pull it tight. And then you scoop up the yarn, turn your hook down, and then pull it through. Scoop up the yarn, pull it down, pull it through. Scoop up the yarn, turn it down, pull it through. So for class today, I'm going to do a class exercise. I'm going to work with 10 stitches. And because I'm working with 10 stitches, I need to make chain 11. So that's going to make more sense here in a minute, but let's count how many I have. I have 1, 2, 3. I just have 3. 1, 2, 3. So I need to do 11. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Scoop up the yarn, turn your hook down. 10, 11. So let's just stop here for a minute and rest right here, and let's look and see what we've done. So you really don't count this loop on your hook. And you're gonna look, it looks like links of a chain almost. I think that's why they call it a chain. Or it kind of looks like V's or something like that from the top. This is the side we want to work with right now. And to count it, we count this when we don't count the loop. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and we're not going to count the slip knot. So if you're looking at something that looks more like this, where you have that bump that comes up, it's like you have 2 strands of yarn on each side and then that bump in the middle. That is, that's the back of the chain or the bottom of the chain. And you can work into that later on in a different project, but I'm going to show you the easiest way to make a chain. This is a little bit more complicated and I don't want you to be frustrated. So what we're going to do next, that was the chain, and we only do the chain once in each project. I'm going to do single crochet stitches along this chain, and that's going to be our first row. So what is going to happen is I have 10 chains, and then I have this 11th chain. And that 11th chain is going to end up standing up on its side, and that's going to create the height and the side piece of our work. Otherwise, it would kind of be slanted. It would have to be pulled to be slanted in. So that's why we had to do 1 extra stitch. So it's going to kind of be like that when we're working. You'll see how it looks once we get started. But that's why we have to do an extra one. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go under. So the chaining is the hardest part. So unfortunately, we have to start with the hardest part. So I want to go under 2. So you're picking up 2 strands of yarn. Sorry, right here. You yarn over and bring it through. Yarn over and bring, I'm sorry, I'm doing a half double. I'm not paying attention. So you start like this. You go through the loop. Yarn over, bring it through. You have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, and then bring it through both. And there are lots of stitches we'll learn, and you'll come up with your favorite. I did half double is actually my favorite. So I'm going to demonstrate this many, many times. Okay, situate it here. So yarn over, go through your chain, yarn over. I'm doing a half double again. I'm making a sweater with half double. That's why I keep going back to it. So you don't yarn over, you go through the hook, go through the loop, yarn over, bring up your hook. You have 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and bring it through both. So you don't yarn over, so you just go right through that hook, yarn over, bring it through, yarn over, 2 loops on the hook, bring it through both. And this is called single crochet. Any questions? I'm sure there are probably questions. I'm going to rip this out and we'll start again. I'm not going to go back to the chain, but we'll just start from here.
We do have a couple of requests to go all the way back to the chain if there's time, but we do only have about 40 minutes left in class.
Yeah, Unfortunately, we only have an hour, so I do have other things to cover. You can rewatch this recording on Monday and rewind it as many times as you need. So I'm a little bit more liberal than a lot of other teachers. Sometimes teachers are just very strict about you have to do this and you have to do that. As long as you're getting your hook through the chain, you can count it as a win, and you'll be fine. It's not going to cause anyone any problems. So you enter the stitch, you yarn over, bring up a loop, yarn over, bring up a loop.
One person has asked, does it matter which direction you feed the yarn over the hook?
Yes, you don't want to do this. That's a yarn under. So you're bringing the yarn under the hook. You bring the yarn over the hook. That will change the shape of it. That's a more advanced stitch. That's actually, it's called a yarn under single crochet, but you do want to bring it over. That makes a tighter fabric and it creates what looks like a little X. So enter the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull it through. Now, when you're working the chain, it can get very, very tight. So when you're making your chain, doing half double again. I love a half double. See right here, I made a mistake. I did half double. You see how that's taller, though? This is a good learning experience. That stitch is actually taller. So you do need to pay attention to what you're doing. As I start talking, I forget what I'm doing. So you enter the stitch, bring it up, 2 loops on the hook, pull it through. So the chain can be very, very tight, and sometimes it makes it hard to work into. And sometimes if the chain is really tight, it'll actually feel stiff on your project. Like usually a scarf or something is kind of stretchy. It will make that edge of that scarf very, very stiff. So one trick is to just really try to have it loose in your hand when you're making the chain, or you can actually make your chain with a larger hook, and that'll make it looser.
You chained 11 stitches, and which stitch did you go into? Was it the second stitch from the hook?
Yes. Let me go back. I'll start with getting from it all out, so we get to go back to the chain.
And we have a more advanced question. What's the difference between a half double and a double crochet?
Well, half double is shorter and a double is just much taller. That's really the difference. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I did 11. You're going to look at your chain. So 1, 2, each one of these is a chain. I'm going to switch back to the proper size hook. So I'm counting, don't count the loop. So that's the first one. So 1, 2, 3. So we're going to skip the first one and we go into the second one. So skipping the first one and going, I'm glad you asked that. I didn't cover that as clearly as I should have. And then you're just going to go right into that stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, pull it through. And I'm going to try to get through this real quickly so I can show you how to start the second row.
While you do that, this seems like a really good question for you. What's a good tip to keep track of the count on the chain?
You just have to focus. You have to pay closer attention than what I've been doing. You really just have to count them as you go. And then it's a good idea to go back and double count. And you just count each one as you're going. If you're chaining like 100 or 200, you can put a stitch marker at like every 10, and that can kind of help you keep track. But I don't think there's a special way of keeping track. Okay, now I'm getting to my last stitch. The last stitch wants to be treated like every other stitch. So you enter the stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, 2 loops on the hook, pull it through both. Now I finished one whole row, and I'm going to yarn over and bring it through. I'm making one more chain. So I made another chain that's called chaining up, and that will increase, that will give you the height for the side. Now, if I was doing a double crochet, it would be taller, so it would be up here. So, and there's more steps, but we're not covering that today, but that's the difference. It makes them taller. So you chain up and then you turn your work and then you just do it again. So, and this time you go through the very first one. So let's look at these stitches. So these look more like a V. They're much easier to see. So I've got, one thing that's confusing here is I've got the loop, and then I have what looks like a stitch right here, but that's our chain. That's where we chained up. So, and you can tell that because there's nothing under it. Like if you go like this and there's nothing under it, see this stitch, if I'm trying to pull this one up, I'm pulling the side. So be careful for that. But count your stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have 10 stitches. And you can either look at the top of it and count these 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can kind of count under them like these holes 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. I want you to make sure you know how many stitches you have, because it's very easy to lose a stitch or to add a stitch. So I want you to count your stitches at the end of every row, because if you make a mistake, it'll be easier to fix if you find it right away. So I did my chain up. I'm going to enter the very first stitch. Enter the very first stitch, and you're going to go under 2 strands like this. And then I'm going to bring up a loop, yarn over, pull it through both. Enter the stitch, yarn over, bring up a loop, pull it through both. Are you able to see what I'm doing with the single crochet? Or is there a particular spot where I can be more clear?
We have one question saying, or one person has said that they get a knot when they turn their work over.
At the end of the row? Or
yeah.
Not a knot. Well, let's look and see how we can get a knot. I'll show you how I do it, and maybe you'll realize that maybe you did it differently. So let's hurry up and get to the end. Sometimes I'm not very good at crocheting when I'm looking through my camera at my hands because my depth perception is off. So that's why sometimes I have to come down here so I can see what I'm doing. So there's my last stitch, yarn over, pull it through both. I'm going to stop right here. I finished my row. Here's a quick pro tip for you for learning. You can put a stitch marker to mark your last stitch. So I know for sure that's my last stitch. I just made it. So I'm going to, I already made my, I didn't make my chain. So I'm going to make my chain. So chain up. So I finished the row, chain 1, chain up for the side, and that gives us the height. And then I'm not really sure how you got a knot, and then you just turn your work like this. So maybe you did something different, but that's all you do. You lay it here, and then you just turn it this way. So let me know if you're having problems, if you still get a knot. Now, what's nice about putting this here, because we're learning and we might not know what we're looking at yet, I've got my loop on my hook. I don't count that. That looks a lot like a stitch. Is that a stitch or is that not a stitch? Well, I marked my stitch right here, so that must be the chain. So that's the chain 1. So when you're learning, it's easy to get mixed up. This yarn is very easy to see, but if you're working with fuzzy yarn or a little tiny yarn, it's sometimes really hard. So go right in there, yarn over, bring up, yarn over, pull it through both. Now I'm going to move my stitch marker and put it in that new stitch. I know that's my first stitch because I just made it and I'm 100% sure. So enter the stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over, pull it through both. So with the single crochet, people are understanding that well, or is there something I can explain it more clearly?
I think just demonstrating it over and over again is going to help.
There's a knot in my yarn. If I were really making something, I would stop and take that out. You don't want that in your project, but because I'm just making a practice swatch, I'm going to leave it. But if you're making a real project, you want to stop right there and cut that and cut your yarn. And I'll show you how to reattach it. So you enter.
Can you demonstrate entering a little slower?
So you enter the stitch. You'll have 2 loops of yarn, or not 2 loops, but you'll be under 2 strands of yarn. You yarn over, pull it through, bring up a loop, yarn over, and then bring it through both. Enter. And this might not seem very relaxing today. Everyone says, oh, I want to learn to crochet because it's so relaxing. Not today. It's not going to be relaxing for a couple of days, actually, because you're learning it. Once you learn it, crocheting is actually very, very relaxing. It's so much fun to do in the evenings or whenever you have extra time. And then I'm going to chain 1, chain up, chain 1, and then turn my work. And I'm going to stop right here and see if anyone has any questions.
Main question we're getting is basically, can you start from the beginning again? But again, I'm not sure we'll have time for that.
Let me see what else I have to cover.
Someone is saying they don't know how to get past the chain.
How
Which
many,
I
how
can
much
really
time,
do.
how much time do we have left?
We have 30 minutes in class left.
Oh, okay, we have time.
Oh, great.
That's pretty, okay, this is pretty much all we're learning in class today, except I'm going to review the pattern and I'm going to show you how to seam it. I'm going to show you how to end it and I'll show you how to join a new ball of yarn. But this is pretty much the meat of what we're learning today. This is the most of it. So this is good and bad. It's really easy to unravel crochet. So if you make a mistake, you can rip it out. But it's also bad because if you get a hold of your yarn and you rip it out by mistake, then it's easy to do that too. So you want to be careful. So I've got my yarn, and stop me as I'm going if you have a question, like right in the middle. If questions come up, you can like stop me right in the middle. So I've got my yarn. I've got my short piece and my long piece. So short over long. Put your hand in the middle. Scooch under. So the working yarn, I'm going under it. You grab your tail and you're holding onto the tail because you don't want it to pull through. You want to pull a loop through. So you're pulling a loop through and then you just cinch it up. And then you want to, it's nicest if the tail controls the size of the loop. And then if you want to just do it in your hand, basically it's just, when I'm stopping to think about it, I can't do it. I just do it. I don't even know what I'm doing. My hands just do it. I've done it so many times. But I start it like this. Start a triangle with your hand going down. You turn it and you bring it through. That's harder to see what I'm doing though. So you make, that's why I do it this way, because it shows each step. So you make a loop like that, short over long. Remember, short over long. You go under, you grab your tail. See, I almost grabbed my working yarn because I'm thinking about it too hard, so I'm messing up. So you grab your tail and you pull it through. Once you start thinking about it too hard, you're going to make a lot of crazy mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So enter, put your hand in the center of the circle, sneak under it, hold on to your tail, grab that short piece of yarn, loop it on your finger, and then hold on to the working yarn and the tail. Okay. And it's nicest, it's best if you can't get this, if this is ruining your life and you just can't do it and it's going to be a hindrance, just make a knot. Just make any kind of a knot just to get it on there. And that's wrong, and I don't really endorse that, but don't let that be what kills you. If you can't get that slip knot, you can practice that later. But see, now I've got a knot in my yarn because I tied a knot. So, you know, sometimes I do like to do best practice and teach everything exactly precise, but you know, sometimes you just got to do what you have to do. So.
Yes, as you keep practicing, will the twisting stop?
If what?
If you keep practicing, or as you keep practicing, will the twisting stop?
What twisting?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what they're referring to.
So
Somebody else asked if you can put a lifeline in your crochet work, which is a knitting thing.
that's a knitting thing. You don't need that in crochet. Crochet is much easier to control. You only have one live stitch. The loop is the only live stitch that you have, but in knitting you could have like 1,000 live. Every stitch is live until you bind it off. So in crochet it's much easier to control that. So you just put your hook through. I'm going to use my larger hook to make my chain. So put your hook through. I'm getting over COVID. I've been very sick, so I think I've got brain fog today again still. So you scoop up your yarn, turn it, and you pull it through. And then you bring your hook up. You can either scoop your yarn. I usually bring it over. So, but the motion's the same either way. And then I need to change my grip, and you pull it through. But you do want to slide the yarn on this thickest part of the hook. And as I'm pulling it down and it's opening that window, it's helping to make it more loose. Like you do not want to do this. Like do everything down here and then in the throat or the neck of it, because you're going to have very, very tight. Now I've lost my count. But so that's what you want to do. Make sure you're not doing it too tight. So yarn over, bring it through. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You see, I'm changing my grip every couple of stitches. 7, 8. Whenever see it's not pulling down and it's not coming through easily. So I'm going to change my grip and pull down, and look, it goes right through. So if that might be something that's a problem for you. And I started talking and I lost count, but guess what? I can count them. So I'm going to take my hook out. If you take your hook out, you might want to make your loop a little bigger so it doesn't unravel. So I've got my loop. So this is 0. It's big open. So just think of that as 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I've got 12. So I'm going to unravel 1. Make that a little bigger. Now let's just double check. 1, 2. Can you see how I'm counting them? Is counting them clear? Sometimes that's hard to see on camera. So where I'm counting these, it really does look like the links of not a standard chain, but like a necklace. There's necklaces, I think, that look kind of like that. But you want to look for these V shapes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Did I mess up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I was right. I was wrong when I counted the first time. I don't know what I did wrong, but I did something wrong. All right. So always keep track of your counting. And I did 11. Now the pattern will tell you. I'm just making this up. So I'm telling you I'm doing 10 stitches and I'm doing an extra one because I need 11 to do my chain up. But if you're following a pattern, the pattern will tell you. It'll tell you to chain 10 or chain 11, and then it'll say enter the second chain from the hook. It won't say skip that. It'll say enter the second chain from the hook, which means you're skipping it. So when you're following a pattern, it'll tell you some of these things that you might not be thinking of. So I've got my loop, which doesn't count. I've got my first chain and my second chain. So 1, 2, I'm going to go in the second chain. Oh, I want to switch to my smaller hook. Go into the second chain. And anywhere you can get through this chain right now is good. So you're just going through the chain, yarn over, bring up a loop, yarn over, pull it through both. Enter the chain, yarn over, bring up a loop, yarn over, 2 loop. Make sure you have 2 loop. When you're learning, you want to make sure you have 2 loop. Make sure you're watching carefully. So is there a particular spot that's tricky? Like, is there a particular place I can
I think we're doing a little better here. We have one question about the edges at the end of each row not looking even.
Well, that's a problem. That's just something that as you practice, it will even out. The edges always, I always say my edges look like hedges because they're really, they need to be tended to. But that's something that will work out with practice. And once you learn this method, there is a more advanced method that will help give you a nice straight edge. So after you practice a little, I can't teach you everything in the first day. So that's why we're not covering all of that. But if after you practice and get a little better, get it more comfortable in your hand, they will start to look better. So let's count them since I'm having so much trouble counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Got 10. Now I have to chain up to do my one chain. I'm going to, just because as you're learning, you want to make sure you know exactly where you're working. So put a stitch marker on that, because you don't want to get mixed up and think that's a stitch, because it's not. Enter the stitch, bring up the loop, yarn over, bring it through 2. Now I'm going to move this up and put it through that. So here's what it looks like from the top. I've got this kind of V shape on the top right here. It's easier to see on the once you make stitches. It's harder to see on the chain. So the chain is hard. So I'm going to enter. So there's a hole there. You can see that hole. I'm going to enter. I'm going under both of these. Yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, pull it through both. So you can either look for that hole, and if you can't see, if you're working with really fuzzy yarn or something, you might not be able to see it. Look at the top and kind of look for these chains. And again, sometimes if you're working with super fuzzy yarn, it might even be hard to see that. But if you feel for it, see, if you go across here without even looking, you kind of feel that's your stitch, and then that's the hole. And you can kind of feel it that way. So there's several ways to find out where to go in. You want to go in here under both, make sure you're going under both strands. Again, later on, if you will either go under the front one or the back one, that's more advanced. But anything you do wrong in crochet, it's probably a more advanced stitch that you're not using right. That's usually how it works out. What questions are there?
I think we're doing a lot better.
Well, you know what? It takes a lot of practice. It takes and I don't mean you have to practice hours and hours and hours every day, but you do have to practice. It is nice if you can try to practice every day, just like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just kind of keep it next to your favorite chair. And when you sit down, and that's why it's nice to only have 10 stitches, because you can sit down and do 10 stitches in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So, you sit down, take a quick break, crochet a row, just to kind of keep it fresh in your mind. And then you'll start to get muscle memory in your hands, and you'll be doing it and you won't even know what you're doing. Like your hands will just go. Like when I tied the slip knot, when I tried to stop to demonstrate how I'm doing it, my hands just do it. Like my brain isn't even thinking about it. It's a strange thing. So
Becomes like riding a bike.
yeah. So I want to show you this. Make sure you go in the last stitch. But the learning doesn't happen right now. You're seeing it and you're learning about it, but the real true learning will happen when you have the yarn in your hands and you're making it. That's when the real true learning will happen. So there's my chain up. Now I've marked that stitch so I know exactly where to go if I'm not sure. But you want to stop here as beginners and you really want to look at this and see what's going on. So this is my loop. If I pull it, it gets
Your work down a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Okay, that's
There.
my loop. This is my stitch because I marked it, I know. What is this? Oh, that's the chain. You know, you'll have to kind of sort it out, but you really want to get comfortable at looking at your work and being able to read it. For the longest time, I didn't know what any of this meant. I just kind of was just winging it. Like I really didn't know any of this stuff really. I learned later on the proper way, but you just want to make sure you understand what you're doing. Sorry. So I know. And then after you make that stitch, you mark it. And I'm going to try to quickly get to the end of the row. I want to show you some things that can happen at the end. And then maybe we'll review the pattern. Do we want to look at the pattern? Oh, I want to show you how to join a new ball of yarn.
Yes, and we also want to look at casting off or finishing your work.
Oh, casting off? Do we have knitters? I think we have knitters in our group.
A couple, yeah, I think so.
Okay, knitters, you're going to love the cast off. You're going to love it. I'm going to demonstrate the cast off now. Don't blink because you'll miss it. You cut your yarn, you lay your work down like this, and you just pull it straight up, and that is fast. It's called fastening off. It's just one step. It's one stitch. These are bound off. If you look at that, if you're a knitter and you look at that, that almost looks like the edge of a bind off. So it's basically binding itself off every row. And this is why you wouldn't need a lifeline, because it's not going to unravel. All you need for if you're working and you mess up and you rip it down and you've got shaping or lace or something, you can control very easily where you stop. It's not like knitting where your stitches are going to drop and unravel and do craziness. You only have one live stitch to manage. So let's see, I'm going to add a new ball of yarn. Add this green. I'm going to do away with these just for a minute. So and you can add this on, like this project, I'm working on it right now, but if you buy a sweater at a thrift shop, you can go through fabric and do this. All you need to do is just go through, yarn over, bring up a loop, yarn over, bring up a loop. And that is it. Super easy. Now, when you're changing colors, it gets more complicated, but we're just focusing on the beginning portion today. So you enter your loop, yarn. It's the same as just doing a regular crochet. Just make sure you leave a long enough tail because you're going to have to secure that. And then just bring it through. And like I said, when you're adding a new color like this, it's this, like if you bought, you've seen fabric where it has crochet on the edge. You just need to make a hole either with the hook or, you could punch a hole and then just go through with your hook and you can crochet along the edge of something. Just like this, you just enter it, bring it up, yarn over, and then you're done. You're just crocheting like normal. I want to get to the end of the row and I'll show you how to fasten off again. And I want to show you how to weave in your ends. And if you guys really want to practice and you really want to watch the video today, this video won't be available, but there's other videos I've taught on YouTube on Michael's page. If you type in Crochet 101 with Michael's, it'll bring up my other videos. They're the same, and they're just got a knot in my yarn. They're just older ones. So if you're all excited and you want to practice more, try not to have a knot in your yarn as you're going, if you can avoid that. The last stitch wants to be treated like all the others. Just enter it, bring it up, and you finish your stitch. Now I'm going to fasten off or bind off. You want to cut your yarn long enough to give yourself a nice tail to work with. You can trim it shorter later if you want to, if you need to. And then to fasten off, that's all you do. And you make, and then I always just kind of go like this just to make sure I didn't do something silly. So it's fastened off. Now, weaving in the ends on crochet is much easier than it is for knitting. So you want to get a large-eyed blunt needle and bring it through. I'm going to do a little trick my mom taught me. If your yarn's frayed or fuzzy, you wrap it in a little piece of paper And then it's easy to, oh, sorry, I keep going off screen. It's easy to fit through the needle. And then you just slip that away. Okay, so if you're using different colors, you do want to make sure you're weaving each color on each color. You wouldn't want to bring the green down there. But I am going to do that because I want you to see what I'm doing, and it'll be easier to see. So you might want to kind of go through here and to get me down here. And crochet stitches are thick and they're more three-dimensional than knitting. They have a front, a back, and a center. So I'm going to put my needle through that. Oh, sorry.
There you go.
And look at the other side. You can't see the needle. So if you can't see the needle, then the yarn is going to follow the same path and you won't be able to see it. So each time you do that, kind of double check. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. Turn it over. Whoops, wait a minute. Look, you can see the needle. So if I pull my yarn through, you're going to see the yarn. So that wasn't good. I'm glad I checked. Take that off. And see, if you make a mistake, it's easy to just undo it. You don't have to worry about making mistakes. The yarn will still love you.
Darren, just so you know, we have about 10 minutes left.
Okay. So for weaving in the ends, you just kind of want to go between in the center of those stitches. And I'm doing 3 at a time. You can't see it. I know it's good. And then go down to the next row and just go, make sure you're going in the middle of the stitches. You'll see once you work up some, you'll see how it feels. You check the back. I can't see my needle. It's in the center. And I pull it through. You don't want to tie any knots because knots will come untied. And once you pull that through, pull it a little harder, and then clip it as close to it. Don't cut your work, clip it. And because you gave it that extra little pull, then it goes away. So, and that's how you weave in your ends. I do want to cover the pattern quickly. And the good news is the pattern is very short and it's very easy. All right. So these are the little hand warmers. And that's what they look like on your hands. So this one is called, it's a free crochet pattern on Lion brand. It's Heartland Yarn, and it's the Crochet Level 1 wrist warmers. If you want to reprint this pattern, you can go to lionbrand.com and print it, or you can put in the pattern number. It's always available for free. And skill level beginner, that's good, that's where we are. It gives you the size. You might get different sizes, but for something like this, it's fine. If yours is bigger or smaller, nobody's going to know. Lion brand Heartland Yarn and Yellowstone, but you can use any color you want. I made some notes on this. I'm just trying to cover it up so it doesn't look confusing. Lion brand crochet hook size I9, and that's different than what Heartland calls for because you want this fabric to be a little denser to keep your hands warm. So sometimes you won't follow the rules. You won't follow the directions. Lion brand, a large eye blunt needle. So all you need is the yarn, the needle, and a hook. Okay, you've got all that. Gauge is something we're not going to worry about. Gauge just means if your stitches are the exact same size as the designer stitches, then your project will be the exact size of the designer's project. If your stitches are bigger, then your project will be bigger. If your stitches are smaller, your project will be smaller. It sounds very easy, and it is, but people can make it very confusing. So, but that's all you need to know right now because it doesn't matter if your wristers are a little bigger or a little smaller. Wristers, you have to make 2, so chain 21. Now it didn't tell you to make a slip knot, but we know you have to make a slip knot. So make your slip knot and chain 21. Single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So we already talked about that. And in each stitch across the chain. So we're going to end up with 20 stitches is what you want to remember. And at the end of this row, you want to count them. You want to make sure you have 20. Row 2, you're going to chain 1. That's your chain, like chaining up. Chain 1, turn your work. You're going to single crochet in each stitch across. So you're just going to single crochet this whole thing. You're going to repeat rows 1 and 2 until it is 6.5 inches wide from the beginning, and then you're going to fasten off like I showed you. Any questions about this?
One question that just came to mind is, does the slip knot count as a stitch?
No, do not count the slip knot as a stitch. Now, for me, I found these to be too small to be suitable for me. Like, that's not helping me very much. So instead of chaining 21, I think I chained 31. No, I think I chained 41 for these. But you can chain, and if you lay your chain on your arm and see about, it won't be exact. You can't measure your chain, and then that's how wide your work's going to be. It never works out, but it'll give you a general idea for something like this. But then this way, it keeps your wrist warm. But that's just me. I just like that. And then I did something else. I don't like to follow the rules. I don't like to be told what to do. I used 4 strands held together of Lion Brand baby alpaca. I used a J hook, which would make them very dense, and I made these, which are very thick and very warm. So, you know, you can do anything you want. Keep practicing, make it, if you have an idea, go for it. You might make a big mess, you might be sorry you did it, but it's going to be a learning process either way. So now let's show you how to seam them. Where is So when you fasten off this, when you're working, you're going across, you're having a nice time, you fasten off, you want to make sure you're leaving a long tail. This tail got clipped off, so this tail is too short. You want to make sure you're leaving a tail that's longer than the wide width, because we're going to seam right here. So you want to make sure, I would leave it maybe 3 times as long, just to make sure you have plenty, or at least twice as long. You don't want to run out. And then thread your needle. Now you're going to fold those over, and what it's telling us is fold the wristers in half, beginning so that the first row meets the last row. Sew the edges together for 1 inch, leaving a 1.5 inch opening for the thumb, and then sew the remainder of the edges shut and weave in the ends. So all that's telling us is we want to line this up. We want to make sure we're getting a nice corner.
Come lower down.
Oh, sorry. Get that nice corner and pull it through. Now, I'm using a different color yarn, so I have an end. So if I were really seaming these, I would have to weave in that end. But because this is still attached to your project, you won't have an end. So don't let what I'm doing confuse you. So if I were crocheting, you know, that's where I would go for my crochet hook. And this is the bottom of the chain, so it looks a little different, but you can still see that opening. So that's where we want to put our needle, and that's what makes seaming crochet very easy. If you don't know how to sew, if you hate sewing, then it's very easy. You don't have to have anxiety. So this is the whip stitch. I'm bringing it over. I'm finding that stitch right where I would put my crochet hook. I'm going through the next one, pulling it through, and then going over. And this is called the whip stitch.
Somebody asked if there's a right side and a wrong side.
There's really not a right side and a wrong side with single crochet made in this method. If you're doing it in the round, sometimes it looks different, but sometimes one side will look better than the other side. So kind of decide which is the better side. So now I've switched to the running stitch. You wouldn't want to switch mid-project, but I want to show you another stitch. This way I'm always going, I'm not jumping over, so I'm not going to get this. I'm going through the back and bringing it to the front. And then I'm entering my needle the same side I just came out of, so through the front going to the back. And this is called a running stitch. Sometimes it's called a basting stitch. I like this stitch better. Other people like the whip stitch better. People have strong opinions, and live your life accordingly. Now you do want to leave room for your thumb. I really wasn't paying attention. So to leave room for the thumb, you're only going to sew one side just to kind of carry my yarn up. And it's said to leave, what, 2.5 inches, but you can lay this down and put your hand on it and measure how big your thumb is and just kind of mark it with a stitch marker. Maybe you have tiny little hands, maybe you're making it for someone that has very large hands. And then now I'm going to start sewing it together, going through both. As you're sewing, every now and then stop and make sure it's matching up here. Sometimes because fabric is stretchy and sometimes you might stretch it and that's not going to make anyone stay better if you have that. So just make sure. And a small little seam like this, you don't really need to clip, but sometimes you can clip it or tack it in place if you need to. And then at the end, you just want to kind of make sure, I'm going to go through the top of this slip knot right here. I want to just get that very edge because I want to, I want to have a nice, I don't want it to be an opening up there. And then I'm just going to weave in my ends. So again, it's nice about crochet. There are many ways to do this, but you can just go through each stitch. So I'm going to do that one, going through there, do there, and you don't have to bring your needle up each time. And then you want to check and make sure you don't see it on this side. And so I know I'm in the center of the stitches. I'm not going under them. Bring it through. And then you want to go back. Just take that about 2 inches, 3 inches if you want. If you're very anxious about it, you can go 4 inches and then go back up. And then you can clip that right off. Or if you want to do it 3 times, maybe you're really worried, you can do it one more time just for, for fun. And then I'm not going to do it because I want to be able to take this out easily. You just clip that close to the surface, being very careful not to cut your work. And then you'll turn it right side out. You can see because I use different yarn, my stitches look horrible, but if you're using the same color, the same yarn you worked with, you won't even see them. And if they're messy, guess what? Nobody will know. And then that is your wrister. And my hands are too big and it's stretching it. So I know we covered a lot. I tried to go fast and thank you for being patient with me. I made a couple mistakes, but I do still have, I think I have brain fog from COVID. It's been a rough 2 weeks. So are there any questions I can answer quickly? Do we have any time left?
No, but there are no questions. I think
if you do have
seem very
questions as
happy.
you're going forward, you can contact me on Instagram. Maybe Molly will put my name in the chat. It's Mr. Woolly Bear. So M-I-S-T-E-R spelled out and then Woolly Bear. And you'll see my picture. You can put my name in too. I think it'll bring it up by my name. And if you want to send me a message on Facebook, just send me a direct message on Facebook. Just search my name and you'll see my picture. It's easy to find. So send me messages with any questions. And that way, once you start working, then you might have questions. So that's when the questions arise. So I'm always here to help. So anything else, Molly?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Keep practicing. The learning happens when you practice, and just practice a little bit at a time, or practice a lot at a time. So, all right. Thanks for coming to class. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.